Hi, Leah.
Hi, Kamna. I'm smiling away because I can't wait to tell you about my call to action this past week. So,
Oh, I'm
anyway,
excited.
what about this week? What are we talking about?
We are talking about wasting food.
Oh, the Clean Plate Club,
Yeah.
right?
What do you think about that? Just off the
I'm
top of from the
top of my
title.
head is I am absolutely fine with wasting food.
Oh, are
Doesn't
you
bother me.
really?
I am, doesn't bother me. And I don't know if I've slowly gotten to that point or I just always have because I don't pay attention to it. But I know it's a touchy. This is a hot button topic for some people.
Really?
Oh yeah, I think. Don't think so?
Well, I know that I've lived it in terms of if I talked about cleaning out my pantry and it's caused some very strong emotions in my house when I throw things away,
Mm.
or if I'm not eating something and getting shamed for it. So it's I've been surrounded by it, but I didn't know that it was a hot button issue for other people as well.
Oh yeah, I think it is. Totally. So this will be fun to dig into.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let me jump in real quick and tell you my call to action was to make an appointment to get my hair done. All right.
Yes, yes, yes.
And it's my friend who does my hair, and she's done it for years now. And I haven't talked to her in a while, but I see her at the school and we're like, hey, how are you? Catch up really quick. But I haven't really talked to her in a while. So I sent her a text like that night. Hey, I need my hair done, kind of thing. Didn't hear from her. Then the next day, I sent her like five of those like silly memes, like those
Yeah.
gifs on your phone, like a skeleton, like, why are you ignoring me? Like another one that was like, are you there? Another one that's like, hello, like
Oh
nothing,
no.
nothing. And I'm like, oh my God. And now I'm racking my brain. I'm like, she subbed with my husband sometimes at school. And I asked him, I'm like, is she mad at me? Like now I'm starting to get this complex. Like this girl that I'm friends with isn't responding to my text. Is she mad at me? I went down a whole 3 day panic mode of like, what did I do to like whatever. And I'm just sharing this because I think we all are guilty of doing this.
Yes.
And I'm like, I mean, yesterday it was to the point where I finally sent her another text and I'm like, are you mad at me? Like I said it out. And then she sent me back, God, no, laughing, whatever. And she's like, I've had a horrible migraine and this is how selfish I am. I was so relieved that she wasn't mad that I forgot to even acknowledge the fact that she's been sick for 3 days.
Oh yeah.
Terrible. But I was just like, oh, good. I thought you were mad at me. Like, how ridiculous are we?
It's not that. I think isn't it funny how the first thing that your mind went to was she's mad at me
Yeah.
instead of any other non-emotional reason.
I was convinced. I'm like, I must have done. And then I was actually starting to think maybe my husband did something. I'm like, maybe he said something because he works with her. Like, I don't even know. I went down every road you can think of. And she was just like, no, I've had a migraine. And I was like, oh, good. So anyway, my hair appointment is booked and it will be happening in a couple weeks. So,
This is a really interesting side street that we're on, though. That the first reaction you had was, "What did I do wrong?"
right.
And
Oh, yeah.
the second reaction was, "Did my husband throw me under the bus?" I mean, like where you went was, "How is it your fault?" And I just think that's kind of interesting that we do this to ourselves. Is what did
Mhm.
I do wrong? And it may not be anything about us. And that your story is a perfect example
It
of
was nothing about me. And my mom goes to her too. And I even said, I'm like, Mom, did she say anything last time you were there about me? Like, is she mad at me? My mom's like, no. I'm like, okay,
that's so interesting.
I know. Anyway, I'm going to tell her about this because she's going to think I'm ridiculous. Like everybody else that's listening probably thinks I'm ridiculous too. But I think we're so guilty of it, all of us.
I don't think you're ridiculous. I think you're very real. And the fact that you can even admit that, like I would do that. I would send funny gifts like, hey, you mad at
Yeah.
me? Like
Yeah.
something's going on or but
Hmm.
is I think we all do that. I don't think you're
I
abnormal.
hope I'm not alone. Okay.
No, no.
So all right. So that was
That
mine.
was
It's the step one is done. Step two is another one. She also sent me back like, hey, just so you know, the only appointment I have is after your bedtime. And I was like, oh, I'll make it work. She's like, all right. Anyway.
For those of you who don't know, Leah's bedtime is 7 o'clock. So
Mhm. And it's
7
my
p.m.
appointment's at 6:45, so it's gonna be a rough
Oh, you're
one.
gonna do it?
Yeah, that's all I have. That's all she had.
How long is the appointment?
Oh gosh, it'll probably be an hour or two because I'm getting color and
Yeah.
chopping it and yeah.
Wow.
I know, staying up late that night. All right, so enough about me. How about you? How was yours?
Well, we've had a quick turnaround in our recording, and
Mhm.
I'm justifying why I didn't do it,
Oh,
referring back to our topic from last week, but I haven't started yet. I was supposed to take my measurements before and then do 3 to 4 times of HIIT training, or resistance training with cardio included, so then I could see if there was a difference after 2 weeks of just working out like that. So
so wait, can I just stop and ask you part one? Why didn't you at least take your measurements?
this weekend, I feel like was really busy, but actually
Okay.
that's not true because I sat around for 4 hours watching TV. So
Mm.
I have no reason.
Wow, I'm glad you admitted it.
Yeah, I have no
Okay.
reason.
I was just wondering why, like, because this was almost like two part. Like the first part is taking your measurements.
Hmm.
So
I don't
like
want to
maybe we
see.
need to break it down. Ah,
I don't want
you
to
don't
see
want to
what it is.
you don't want to see the number. Did I
No.
ever tell you once I heard a way to take your measurements is take your all of your measurements and then add that up and get a big bulk number, let's say.
Oh,
Like I'm just saying maybe it's 200. And then the next time you take your measurements, you do the same thing. And you're just focusing on making 200 go down.
I like the way you underestimate. I think it's really great. 200.
Well, I don't even know. Is that,
For me, I think it'd be higher, but I don't know.
oh, but you know what I mean? Like I was
Yeah.
just like, because I think you could take it stands for what? Your waist, your hips, your arms, your abs, and your thigh. You take your
Oh,
WHAAT. Your what? That's your measurements.
okay.
And then if you take your what, then you add those numbers and then you like, and then the next month you just want to focus on getting it down. Because I think sometimes we're like, but I've been working on my arms and they're not going down. And you're forgetting that maybe, you know what I mean?
I like that you simplified it for me because I'm like, oh my God, this is taking measurements is going to be so tedious. And so waist, hips, arms, abdomen, and thighs.
Thighs.
Okay,
Mhm.
I can do that. I'm going to get
I
that done
mean,
today.
you could even do crazier things too, but why? You know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
could get crazy, but I think that's a great way to remember what to take.
Yep.
All right, so
Writing it
that was
down.
part one. Part two is to start the exercise. So why
Well,
didn't you?
I did exercise, but I didn't do the class or the I like being outside, and this weekend was so
I
gorgeous.
know.
I didn't really want to be inside. Uh,
Mhm.
our fantastic days are like a week in the summer, so I wasn't letting go of that.
I
I
know.
mean, it was so nice this weekend.
So you still moved your body.
Oh yeah, I worked out for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So you kind of did it.
Yeah, but I didn't do I really want to see the impact of the resistance training in
Hmm.
terms of how it changes my body.
Okay.
So
I
that's
can't.
really my goal.
Now, are you going to do like 5 minutes? I think you said last week that you're not a 5 minute person. You got to do
No.
like a full. Okay.
Well, because I did a walk and then I did 10 minutes of core, and then
Well,
I had
that's,
done a bike class and I had done arms. But you know how Kate said to do like the whole thing in one? So I'm going to try to do that.
I think you did it. You did this week's call to action, except the measurements. You
Okay.
did resistance, you did weights, you did, you know,
Yeah, I did.
you didn't do, what would you tell me if I was that? If I did exactly what you said?
Well, you did do it, is what I would say.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I like when I can switch it around on you a little bit.
I know. I like it too, actually. It's very positive for me.
All right. Well, so are you going to try again?
Yes, I'm going to do
Okay.
the measurements today, and then I'm going to do a I don't depending on how hot it is, I'm probably going to do a bike boot camp. So that'll hit all the marks.
Okay.
Mhm.
Bike boot camp. Sounds
Yeah.
hard. Sounds
And
miserable. No,
it's
I
well,
mean,
the hardest part is changing shoes every like 10 minutes.
ugh, sounds horrible.
It's not bad.
All right. I'll take your word for it. All right, let's jump into wasting food, right?
Yes.
All right, so here's what I immediately came up with. And I went down this rabbit hole and it was kind of gross. So
Oh,
just
okay.
let's get this out of the way and then we'll move on to the
Oh,
more other
okay.
stuff. All right, I didn't even tell you this part before we started because I wanted to hear your reaction. We waste more food by overeating than directly throwing it away.
We waste more food by overeating than throwing it away. That's a really staggering concept.
And where it went, and don't ask me how I got on this article, was literally waste and how it goes in the toilet and then it goes into the plant and then it goes and clogs up the septics and all of the cities that have our waste plants management there. I went down
Somebody's
this
doing this
whole
research. Oh my God.
huge rabbit hole on how, and I now whether or not I even believe it that much or not, I was just like, I guess that's true. If we're ingesting a lot more food, then it's coming out of us in a way, and then that's got to go somewhere and take up space that way. I don't know. I'm just telling you that that was the first thought I went into, and then I had to re-Google everything because I'm like, I am
Well,
not
yeah.
going down this rabbit hole.
Well, first of all, I think it's somebody that's it's interesting that somebody is doing this research, first of all.
Okay, I
That's
guess. All right.
interesting in the first place. Um, let's leave that where that is.
All right.
And
Yes.
the second thing is I also started out with uh food waste. So um the first thing that I found, which I thought was interesting, but it's not where the direction we're going, but it's just an interesting little side note, is
Mm-hmm.
grocery stores contribute to food waste by encouraging consumers to buy more than they need, overstocking shelves, inaccurately predicting shelf life, or damaging products.
Yeah, because they got to throw that stuff out.
Yeah. Or you ever see those racks where they're like, "Oh, it expired or it's expiring
Yep.
in a day," and then they want you to buy it because it's discounted. So,
Mm-hmm.
or you can go to the grocery store and it's like, buy one, get one free. And you're like, I can't miss the free one. So
Right.
take both.
That is, and you know you only wanted one, but you're going to buy that second one, and then you're probably going to waste it in one way, shape, or another, in your body wasting it or
Right.
in the garbage.
Right.
So,
Right. That's where I want is dividing this into sort of two categories or subcategories is how we throw food away or
mhm.
how we overconsume because we don't want it to be thrown away.
Overconsume or we don't want it to be thrown away. Yeah.
Right. And so the throwing away, that is something we need to work on. But I think what our focus today is the overconsumption. Is that right?
Interesting. Well, I think maybe both. I think it's
Okay.
equally important
Okay.
because I think the reason, and here's why I'm saying that, is because I think the reason we overconsume is because we don't want to throw it out because we
Right.
feel like we're wasting it. So we
Right.
need to, we do need to focus on both of them equally,
Mhm. Yeah.
don't you think?
Yeah.
So I don't
I
know.
agree.
All right. So here's some things that I've heard. Tell
Oh,
me if you've
okay.
said them or you've heard them. These are things I've heard. Ready? Quote,
Mhm.
I was raised in the Clean Plate Club, so I feel guilty if I have to throw it out.
Yep.
Right? But here's my next caveat to that sentence. But don't you feel guilty if you overeat it?
Yeah, that's a whole different kind of guilt though.
Like, right? But it's like maybe we need to choose our guilt.
Oh, wow.
I
Choose our
mean,
guilt. Yes.
you're going to feel guilty either way, aren't you? You're going to either feel guilty if you throw it out, or you're going to feel guilty if you overeat it and you feel bloated. And then you get on the scale and you're like guilty because you ate all, like, maybe it's like, all right, which guilt do I want to run down that road today?
Oh, oh my gosh. Wow.
And maybe that's not a positive statement to say to yourself, but the reality is we're most of the time going to be feeling one of those guilts.
Yeah. I read this article that was talking about sometimes, well, this is the example they gave. It's not true for me because I don't crave a burger, but let's just say
Okay.
you're craving a burger for dinner, okay? And you're like, no, but I have chicken and potatoes and broccoli in my fridge. And you're like, but I don't really want that. So you eat like a healthy snack, but you're still thinking about the burger. And then you eat something else. And then by the time you actually get to eating time, you're starving. You go
Mm.
ahead and get the burger anyway because you're so hungry, but you've eaten it so fast. And then there's that guilt that you talked about, and then you overdo other things. So it is a matter of choosing which guilt we want,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe eliminating it in the first. If the person had eaten the burger in the first place, the rest of it could have easily been avoided.
Right. Oh, I never went full circle that way. I've heard that like we eat around our cravings a lot, and I never considered it. God, I'm wasting all of this other food
Yeah.
to get to this, to eventually get to the one that you really wanted initially.
Well, the thing I think I get a little bit stuck on with this topic is we talk about wasting food in terms of throwing it away. And
Mm-hmm.
then we talk about over consuming it because we don't want it to be thrown away. But then you're like, are you treating your body like a garbage can? I mean, what's
Mm-hmm.
happening there? I'm not saying that people consciously do that, but is it okay for a person to overeat because they don't want it to go in the garbage? Like, I'm a little stuck there.
I think a lot of us are stuck there. Don't I mean I
Mhm.
think and by the way, I have done that. I have literally been like, I'm just gonna eat this right now so that I don't throw it in the garbage can.
Mhm.
And I've said so that I don't have to throw it away. Do you know what I mean?
Right, right.
So then that leads me to that overeating part.
Yeah. So what was it?
So
What else is on your list of things
so
you've heard?
another one is I've heard people say I don't like leftovers.
Mhm.
So I'm gonna just eat
Yeah.
it now because I don't like leftovers. Nobody
Yep.
in my house eats leftovers, so I'm either gonna throw it out or just eat it all right now.
Yep.
Okay. Another one is it's wasting money. I can't waste money.
Okay. Explain this
So
one
if
to
I
me.
bought cookies
Mhm.
and I ate three of them and I'm good, and then they start to go bad and they don't even taste good, like I can't throw them out because I already bought that. I spent my money on it. I don't want to
Right.
waste my money by throwing that out, right?
Right. Right.
And I think a lot of people have that one,
Oh yeah. I spent money
right?
on this. I'm not throwing it away.
Yep. Yep. And I think that's a hard one to get around, but I thought of a great, maybe it's not a great analogy for anybody else, but for me it is um, like I went to the Geauga County Fair with my family on Friday. And usually when we go to the fair, we go in every single animal barn. We go through every single craft barn and photography barn and art barn, and we do it all, right? And this time when we went to the fair, we only did rides because we were with a different group of people. And I left thinking, man, I kind of wish, I went through everything. But never once did I say, what a waste of money, because I only did some of it.
Ah, yes. Very good point.
And why is it a waste of money if I only eat some of the food
Mhm.
when I buy it?
I
Like,
read this thing that's appropriate right now. It said that consider throwing away food as a price of admission for feeding yourself. So if food is perishable, it's going to be thrown away, right?
mhm.
But it's necessary for us to eat. So, and the way that if you go to a restaurant, if you go to a fair, it's going to be a lot of food. It's going to be
Mhm.
unhealthier options. So some of it is going to be wasted, and that's a price of admission. Just like what you're saying about the fair is you're not going to see everything, so some of it
Right.
is going to be wasted in quotes.
Wasted. Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, I think we have to just kind of a lot of every episode that we have that we talk about, no matter what the topic is, it's just changing that perspective that we have. And I'm
Yes.
hoping that when people listen to this episode, they change that perspective a little bit. I had one
Yep.
more though, and tell me if you've ever done this. Well, I hate the crust of the pizza, but I might as well just eat it anyway. Or I don't really like the crust of my bread, so I'm gonna eat it anyway, even though I don't really like it. Like we just don't
Mhm.
want to waste, or eating my kids. I don't do this anymore, but when they were little, like eating their last couple bites of macaroni and cheese, or if they left one nugget, because they don't want to waste that one thing that they left,
Yeah.
right? Like those are
Yeah.
all perfect examples of how we don't want to waste our food.
But we have been trained from so early on,
Yeah.
and I remember repeating the same thing to my children. Like, oh, you only have 2 bites left in your plate. Why are you leaving it?
Mm-hmm.
And I did the same thing to my children. Like, you should just clean your plate.
Mm-hmm.
No, they're full. They have stopped because they are full. And
Mm-hmm.
their stomachs are so small,
Tiny.
and we're forcing them to hit the override button.
Oh, that's an interesting thing. The override button. Do you think a lot of us even know that we're hitting that button?
I don't think we have a conscious idea of it anymore.
What, why? Or tell me why.
I think we have learned how to overeat to a point where we don't know what it means to eat till we're content.
Mm,
Our idea is, so I was reading this article about, you used to only get dessert after you cleaned your plate. That was a philosophy
okay.
that some parents or some families had. And so you made an association that if you wanted that dessert, your plate needed to be clean. So now you've made an association that you ignore your fullness so you can get to dessert. You've
Oh,
learned that
I've
so
broken it. I've
deeply.
broken that mind body connection.
Mm-hmm.
Or I like changed that pathway so it doesn't even exist anymore.
Right. Right.
Hmm. That's got to sink in. Right, because you're going to eat that dessert even though you're overly full because we've learned it from the time we were little.
Yes. And it's a really hard thing to relearn, to stop when you're like, I can be done now.
Mm-hmm.
I can be okay now if I stopped eating. But we have so many reasons why we keep eating.
You know, we said this. Somebody is a lot of people have been talking about it in our call to action groups. And I said out loud the other day, and it's really sticking with me. Like, I know I need to start paying attention to that,
Yeah.
but I don't want to. Why
Oh,
do you think that is?
we need to talk about this for a minute.
Like, I really know that I'm gonna just use the word broken because I don't know what else word to use. I already know that full and the signal that tells me when I'm full is broken. I know it,
What do you think
or else I don't pay attention to it.
why do you not want to explore that?
I wish I knew, but I just have I don't. I know I need to, but I don't want to explore it.
Do you think eating is giving you either some kind of pleasure, or it's giving you some mechanism to deal with whatever's happening?
Mm, no,
Okay.
I don't think so. I think I really just have I've gotten to know my portions and I put my portion in front of me and I just eat that portion.
So
And
is
I
it the same every time? The same portion every
close,
time?
close. But I don't
Regardless of
even regardless go ahead, finish your
regardless of what you're feeling or how hungry you are?
yeah, that's what I mean. Like I just put that portion in front of me and I'm eating that portion and I'm not even paying attention to maybe that portion doesn't is too much for me anymore.
Do you think eating is a chore?
Ooh, why did you go down that path? I would love to get inside your brain right now. But anyway, um, do I think maybe?
Like, it's just something to do on the list. Like, I need to have dinner and I need to
Yeah,
do this, and then
probably.
I okay.
Probably. So is that why I don't want to do the work?
I mean, if it's not a pleasurable activity, then maybe you don't even care that much about it.
Well, I enjoy eating.
Do you? Because you're eating what you cook. And I know you don't like cooking.
Hmm. Interesting. This is very fascinating. This is one of these that's going to hit me all week long. If I really, so wait, let me get off of me and ask you the same question.
Okay.
Do you stop and ask yourself if you're like, would you say your signal's broken?
I have been working on this, and I think in working with clients, I've started to realize things that are true for myself. And I'll tell you what I mean.
Okay.
So it used to be that, okay, I have a memory of us going out to dinner, cleaning my plate, and
When
then
you
I
were little
ordered,
or adult?
no, I was an adult with children.
Okay.
And I ordered a dessert. Okay. But it was going to
Okay.
melt by the time I came home. So
Mhm.
I ate it in the car like really fast. And someone's like, man, you ate that quickly. And there was some level of shame, but there was also this feeling of, we talk about our meter being broken.
Mhm.
Um, my full meant I was busting out of my pants. Like it was uncomfortable and I was having acid reflux and I was bloated
So
and
that was your full cue. Like your
yes,
meter was like, okay, I'm full once I have the bloating, check. Pants barely buttoned, check.
yes.
Gas, check. Heartburn, check. Like that was your meter.
That was my meter. That's what full means, that I need to get to that place. And I don't think it was a conscious rational thing. It was just my body knows this is when I stop eating. And even then sometimes I was still eating.
So do we need to change that word?
I believe that because if we have an association, for me it was being full means too much. And I
Mm-hmm.
think content, satisfied,
Mm-mm.
enough, like whatever word hits you, that's what that word should be.
Enough. Satisfied. Content. Okay.
But there is a disconnect between being content and not throwing food away. So if you are full and you maybe still have half the food on your plate, what are you going to do?
Oh, so we need that plan there.
Yes.
Because you're right. If we are somebody who cannot throw away food for all of those reasons that I said, which by the way are passed down to us by our parents, a culture, even diet culture in general,
Yeah.
like then this is something that is hard,
It is
right?
hard. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's like you learn a certain road to go home and then someone says there's a traffic jam, you can't go that way. You're like, "Oh my God, I don't know how to get home
I don't
now."
want to go home. Now what? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Hmm.
so you have to create new. Did you have any more before we could dive into this? Did you have any more things you've heard?
Well, I've no, that was all the ones that I'm sure there are more, but those were the ones that I came out with.
I had a
Yeah.
few on my list.
Okay, what are the ones you've heard?
You think it won't be good later?
Oh, yes.
So like
Or
if
it's only
you,
fresh right now.
yeah, it's fresh right
Yeah.
now or it won't taste as good tomorrow.
Hmm.
You'll be hungry later, so you might as well eat it now.
Mm. Oh, I got another one actually. I
Oh,
only get this time of the year, so I might as well eat it
yes.
all.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm. Yeah.
You talked about the money. You can't take it to go. You were trained to clean your plate, and then you think you'll be judged if you leave food on your plate.
That's interesting. Wow. Do you think you'll be judged? Do you feel like you get judged if you leave food on your plate? I do.
Sometimes, yeah,
Yep.
you set a light bulb.
Yes, because I know I've left food on my plate and somebody has many times said, "Did you not like those? Were those
Yes,
not good?" And
yes,
it's wow, I've said that to people too.
you have.
I'm sure I have. Oh, was that not good?
Yeah, especially if you've
Mm.
made it.
I never considered that judge. Yeah. But I've never considered that like a form of judgment. And you're right, it absolutely is.
Well, because we're focusing on somebody's plate, and I, I don't know. There's like so much emotion involved in feeding ourselves, and I'm not sure why.
Mm. All true.
Did you also mention the kids in other countries are starving? Did you?
No, but that is one I've heard. I mean, how many times have you heard that? Or I think there was even a commercial about it at one point in time. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
But the reality is those kids aren't getting whatever's left on my plate anyway.
right. It isn't. They aren't. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, where do we go from here?
Yeah. What are your answers? What is it
Well,
to do
there's
now? What do we do?
there's a few things. I think the lesson in this is there's a few things we have learned, such as you learn that your good for you foods are torturous sometimes. Like if your parents make you eat broccoli and you hate broccoli, and they're like, you have to finish all your broccoli. And I've had days where I've had to sit at the table as a child and finish what it was, even though I hated it. So sometimes you
Hmm.
make an association that a good for you food is terrible, and
Mm.
the foods that are really yummy are really bad. So you start making a distinction of what kind of food it is. You also
Hmm.
ignore your hunger signals. And I've talked about this many times before, that there are days where I could eat dinner at 5 o'clock, but either dinner is not ready, or it's not like I don't have time, or it's not in our schedule to eat dinner at 5. And then if we're eating a dinner at 6:30, by 6:30, I'm really hungry.
Starving.
Yes. So then you overdo it because
Hmm.
you've not regarded your body's cues.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of reasons why these things happen. And I wrote down a few things that I was thinking of in terms of strategies.
Okay.
First is, and this might be controversial, but either take less on your plate or take a smaller plate.
Hmm. Why is
So
that controversial? Controversial. I can't say it.
I don't know. I think we've associated our American society with having enough and having, like, have you ever been to a hotel where they have a continental breakfast, so like an all you can eat?
Oh yeah,
And
I only stay at hotels with that, but go on.
yeah, and then I hate to be judgy, but you see people taking food and then half of that food ends up in the garbage, and you're like, well, that was a waste. You should take
Hmm.
less and then maybe go back for seconds.
I see why you're saying it could be controversial. Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's a
Yeah.
little bit judgment on my part, but I would say just start with less. And if you're still hungry,
Hmm.
definitely have more.
You know what I did this weekend at a party, which was not intentionally for this topic at all, but we were at a party and and it was like a buffet thing, and I took my burger with a bun, and then I took a little bit of something else, and then I put, this isn't even an exaggeration, I put two Doritos on my plate. Two. Because I was like, God, I want a whole bunch of these, but no,
Yeah.
I don't. If I put them all on my plate, I will eat all of them. And I
Right.
said, I can come back for more, but I just put two on my plate. And then I walked away and I sat down and I ate the two. And honestly, I just forgot that I wanted more because I
Uh,
was removed from the table. I was far away. But I remember saying, if you put whatever you put on your Doritos is what you're going to eat. I remember saying that in my head.
Well, you also did something really smart, is you took two, so you
Hmm.
satisfied that craving, because who knows, if you didn't have those two, you'd be like, I want Doritos, I want Doritos, I want
Hmm.
Doritos.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good strategy. Just take a little bit
I,
and
I
then
didn't
see.
even do that intentionally. I wish I could be sound very smart, but I just remember, just it's just coming to me now. I was like, God, I want a Dorito so bad. And then I remember just going, whatever you put on your plate, you're going to eat that.
Right. Right.
Period.
Ah,
Hmm.
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
And then the smaller plate thing too. I remember
Yeah. Yep.
going to I don't know, a coffee shop or something, and there was cakes in the thing, and I wanted to order a piece of cake, but I'm like, that slice is massive. Do you have anything smaller? And they're like, no, this is what people want to order, is big giant pieces of cake. And I'm like, it's not, I don't know. I don't want, I was with my daughter last week and I said, I want a place where I can go to get a bite of dessert, maybe a
Oh,
couple of bites. I don't want the whole thing, but in order to get it, you have to buy the giant piece. And then you feel like if I don't eat it, it's going to be bad tomorrow, or it's not going to be good, or
yes.
I've wasted my
Or
money.
you
The whole,
wasted your money.
yeah. And where I just
So
wanted
did
to
you get your
taste.
cake?
No,
Hmm.
I didn't really need, I just had a cup of tea, but I was like, I just really want a restaurant where I can get a spoon of dessert.
That's a really good idea. Though
Yeah.
it really, I mean, it's so true. You just want to taste something sometimes.
Yeah. I think that's why it's great when you go with people and then you can share.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. The next one was, this is okay. I hope this image lands, but I was thinking of, if you think of a traffic signal as your hunger cues, or your fullness cues,
Okay.
right? And green, you're like hungry, ready to go. And yellow, you're like, I'm kind of getting full. And then red is like, please stop. We've had
Um,
enough.
okay.
And then
Oh,
if you don't pay attention to the traffic signals, you're going to suffer the consequences. And it could be that you're just further eroding the mind body connection. So you're not listening to your cues. So you don't trust that your body knows when you're full. So you'll keep going past that. So you create this relationship of mistrust with your body.
Mm.
Or it could be that if you overeat, then you literally will feel sick.
You just said mistrust in this topic, and it really is very intriguing to me that I wonder if me and anybody else, that's exactly what it is. Like maybe I
Mhm.
mistrust it,
Mhm.
my cues. Like I'm like, are you really full? Let's try. Let's see. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. It's a
Hmm.
really, really hard habit to break. But I was just thinking of, if you can imagine that traffic signal, then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, it's enough.
Yeah.
Um, I also said the thing about considering food as the price of admission. So if you buy fresh food, which is ultimately our goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
To eat fresh, to buy fresh, to eat local, all of these things, they have a shorter shelf life. So
Mm-hmm.
they're going to rot much quicker than if you bought a box of ding dongs or something.
Mm-hmm.
That can last in the pantry for a long
For a long
time.
time, right? Mm-hmm.
And if you know you want to eat fresh, but those things are going to rot, then you sort of have to decide, I buy less, buy more often, or like I do the prep work to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that I consume it all. Not
Yeah.
all at once, but that it gets
Oh,
eaten.
gosh, I think we're all guilty of that. Buying fresh produce and then throwing it out because it goes bad, right?
Hmm.
And then we
Yeah.
feel the guilt again. We
Yep.
feel that guilt.
So there was a few strategies that I read, and then I was also thinking about learning the roots of where this comes from.
Okay.
For example, whether it's you've had faced food insecurity in your life, like I don't know if we have enough food, if can get enough food, or if you've grown up with any of that, then you're going to learn in a different way that you have to eat until you're full, like
And you can't
beyond
waste
full.
food. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Food shame. And
Mm.
what I mean with that is that whole judgment of, oh, that's all you're eating, or oh, you're eating that much, or even
Mm.
um, sometimes when I'm with other people who eat either less than me or slower than me, I judge myself like I'm going too fast or I ate too much and I need to pace myself with this person and I need to slow down and I'm done eating and they're all still eating. I do a lot of judging on
Mm.
myself. So it's just some of those things. And then maybe it's a coping technique for dealing with emotions that you just don't want to deal with.
So we overeat as a
Mhm.
coping mechanism.
Yeah. Because if you don't trust your body and you don't trust your emotions,
Do you think that is so then we really just use the excuse that we don't want to waste food?
yeah, it could be.
And we're really just yeah, I'm just not saying all the time, but like we're just don't want to deal with the emotions that go along with it. So it's just easier to say I don't want to waste food, so I might as well eat
Right.
it.
A fear of
Mm.
judgment, which we already talked about. And then
Hmm.
the last one, which I thought was really interesting, was environmental guilt.
What is
So
oh
if you buy it and you have wasted it, then it creates the whole system of waste, like what you started out with,
yeah,
or resources are wasted, the water, the ground, the like raw,
landfills,
yeah.
the
So you
methane
get,
gases and all of that
yes.
stuff.
So you have
Mm.
environmental guilt. So here are from carriedahlgren.net. She had a few suggestions of maybe what we could do
Okay.
to retrain our brain for not wasting and not. Well, there's a old expression. Either it goes to your waste or the garbage can, or it goes to your waste, like your,
Your waste. Yep.
yeah, WAIST.
Yes.
Uh, she said embrace meal planning,
Oh, okay.
grocery shopping, meal planning. So if you know what
Yeah.
meals you're going to be making and you go to the grocery store with that intention, then you know what you're eating, but you also know you're not going to waste the food
Yes.
because you don't want to
Okay.
throw your money away. That's
Right.
terrible. Uh, take it to go.
Okay. Yeah. If you
So
can. Yeah.
yeah, and if not, then I had someone say to me that she ordered a burger and she only ate half and she brought the half home and threw it away, but what she should have done is given it to the person she was with so they could have taken it home and enjoyed it.
Yes, I've done that before. If we're eating with someone, I'd be like, I'm not going to eat this at home. Will you want it? And
Mhm.
then I've actually had people say, well, I'll give it to my dog. And I'm like, okay, fine with me. It's not being wasted then, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So take it to
Yeah.
go, and maybe someone else can take it to go.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Um, make the most of leftovers, which we also kind of just talked about.
Yeah.
Do a weekly clean out meal.
Oh, like I think it's called everything but the kitchen sink meal,
Oh, is that
right?
what it's called?
I think I've had people say like making everything but the kitchen sink eggs or something like that because they're just putting in a ton of peppers, onions, lunch meat that's left over, cheese, whatever they got left over, just throwing it in something.
Yeah. And I know people have leftover dishes they make. So,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
But I think a lot of it goes back to that planning, like you said, like planning to make something that you can use 3 times this week
Yeah.
so that it doesn't go to waste.
Yeah.
You know? Hmm.
And then the last one was finding joy outside of food.
That's a tough one for some people, I think.
Yeah. Because our activities are all centered around eating or, and if you go somewhere and you can share with somebody, great. But a lot of the times people don't want to share.
Hmm.
So
Oh
you end up
yeah.
with this big giant plate of food right in front of you that costs, $20
Hmm.
for the entree. And you're like, I can't throw
Hmm.
this away.
So many times you don't want to throw it away.
Yeah.
So sad. My dad used to, when there was 3 of us girls, and he wouldn't even order food at a restaurant. He would just eat all from our food
Oh,
because
really?
we would end up wasting so much food and it would just kill him that we would have all these half unfinished meals. So he just stopped ordering food and would just get whatever I didn't eat, whatever my other two, whatever we didn't eat. But that's another great strategy too, is like maybe just share.
I think
If
sharing
you,
is great.
Mhm. If you really have a hard time throwing away food, we have to really figure out why we're having that hard
Mhm.
time. And then some of these strategies are super helpful.
Yeah, and I think also like if I've made something and I can't use it all and I know I'm not going to use it within the week, I freeze it immediately because then
Mm.
it's good for later. And then I won't feel
Okay.
bad that it's going in the trash cuz we don't want to throw food away,
No,
but sometimes
nobody
it'll happen.
really does. Nobody wants to. But and it's so funny that when you tell somebody you throw away food, some people are like, yeah, throw it away. Or some people are like, you can't throw that away. It's you
Yes.
get there's two huge there's almost like two definitive sides. There's no gray area when it comes to throwing away food. I mean, I'm sure there is, but I don't see it in my personal family. It's
That's
either
happened to me where we've been at a party or something at my house. And if something's been sitting out for the whole evening, I tend not to want to keep it. And people are like, no, it's still good. You should save it. And I save it and I end up throwing it away a couple of days later. And I'm like, I don't see the point of wasting the container, wasting the water to wash the
right.
container. Like if you would have just let me throw it away when I wanted to, it would have been
Yes.
fine.
Hmm.
But now you've made me waste other resources.
Yes. It's a good point. We're wasting other resources if we don't just do it. Lots of them. So
Yeah.
I
This,
have one more analogy that I forgot to say earlier, and I think it's a interesting take on it too. Again, just changing the way we look at it. It's when you pay for a spot at a parking meter and it's time to leave, we don't just sit at that meter until the time runs out. We just drive away. So we're wasting, if you think about it, we're wasting money in that aspect,
yeah.
but we don't think about it. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like we waste our money in a lot of other ways,
Yes.
but when it comes to food, we just shove it in our mouths and then we feel overly full and we get guilty because we overate when it's like there's so many ways that we're wasting our money and our resources and stuff. It's like sometimes we need to just take care of ourselves,
Yes.
you
That's
know?
a really good analogy. I like that one a lot.
Yeah. So I didn't come up with that one. I found it somewhere, but
I
so
would feel
what's
sad if I had like 15 minutes left. I'm just
I
saying.
and I think maybe I'm so nuts that I don't even look at it. If
Yeah,
we ever have to pay at a parking meter, I just put my money in, go whatever I gotta do, and then you come back and you're like, we don't even think about it, but we're probably we're wasting money that way.
true. Very true. Very,
It
very
doesn't
true.
even get thought about. Like that's how I want to be with my food. Like, all right, I didn't finish it. No big deal.
Right.
Why can't
And
I be
if,
that way?
but if just to carry this analogy out, if you know you're going to only be in that parking spot for an hour, you're not going to pay for 2 hours, right?
Yes.
So if you only know you want half a sandwich, why are you taking a whole sandwich?
Mm-hmm.
I think
It's a
that's a
great way to
very,
look at it.
very good analogy. I like it a lot.
So true. Because how many times my husband has been like, just put a quarter in. We're not going to be that long. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Or whatever. And it's right. Like if I'm going to be eating in an hour, why am I eating a whole bunch of food right now? Just have something little to hold me over.
right. Or if you only want something little, just eat something little.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I like that.
So,
That's a good analogy to end on. I think it's
okay, good.
good visual for sure.
So do you have a call to action this week?
I am just continuing what I said last week. I need to
Measurements.
put it into action.
Okay. So your
And
measurements and then your exercise.
and there's something else that kind of goes along with this is some weeks my call to action, I'm up right on top of it and I'm finishing it and I'm like gung ho. And some weeks these call to actions are really difficult. So
Why?
that's what I need to explore. I need to
Hmm.
explore why I hesitate on some, why I make excuses,
Do you
why
think you're making a call to action that you don't really want to do?
no, I want to do it,
Hmm.
but stuff is getting in the way. And why
Mm.
am I
Is
letting stuff get it in the way?
what
Stuff,
I would want to know what actually is getting in the way.
yeah, but why am I letting it get in the way of certain call to actions, but not in other call to actions?
Hmm.
So I'm going to explore that a little bit too. Because we've had people say in our groups that, oh, I didn't do my call to action. It happens, but what's actually going on?
What's going on why aren't we doing it?
And I asked an nosy questions to other people. I need to ask it to myself.
Yes, and I really want you to just make a list of why you're not doing it.
Yeah, good point.
Why, like there's a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So, my call to action this week is it's gonna sound simple to everybody in here, but I remember trying it about a year or two ago, and it was actually extremely hard for me.
Okay.
It's to leave one bite on my plate.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really hard. I remember going, "Oh my God, why is this so hard? Just leave the bite there."
Well,
So
I think,
I'm only want to do it like 3 times because it was really hard for me to do.
what is the purpose of leaving the bite?
To slowly get into that frame of mind where it's like, just because I put one portion on there doesn't mean I need to eat the whole portion. To slowly get into that mindset of like, you probably don't even need that one little bite. Is it
Mm-hmm.
really making that big of a difference? And to like pay attention, like, am I still hungry? Then maybe,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, finish it off. But most of the time, I'm not still hungry. And one bite adds up
Right.
throughout the week.
Yeah, I feel resistance listening to this
Why?
because I'm like, okay, I'm not judging your call to action, but this is where
Okay.
my mind went. My mind went to, well, then why not put one bite less on your plate?
Well, okay, so that was an interesting thing. I've already in my head been like, well, what if I just put everything on my plate and then take one bite out immediately?
Yeah,
Which I could do. But
right.
then I'm not paying attention to if I'm hungry.
Okay. All
Right?
right. I'll take your word for it. I will need to hear your reflections because I'm not completely getting it. So
Okay. I
it's
don't know if I'm
fine.
getting it either, by the way. I don't know
Oh,
if I am either. I'm
okay.
just saying, like, we'll see how it goes.
Okay. I'm gonna wait to hear what you say.
Okay. All right.
Not
Well, I'm
not
I'm
making
not
any
changing it.
judgments.
I'm not changing my call to action. I'm sticking with
I
it. We'll
love
see
it.
what happens. All right.
Well,
Well,
have
have
a
a
good
good
week.
week.
Bye.
Bye.